Hey, so we're gonna switch it up a little bit in today's video. Not too much editing. I don't really know what editing I'll do, if any. Maybe just quick jump cuts. Maybe some nice background music, because it's probably gonna be a long video. But yeah, we're not gonna talk about reptiles today, and instead we are gonna talk about some super sad, rough stuff that I did in my past. Yeah, and hopefully this helps some people that maybe were in a similar situation that I was in, 8 years ago. So my name's Dakota. I've been in the hobby now going on around 5 or 6 years now. I've owned reptiles in the past, but just kind of like, corn snake, things like that, and I wasn't really in the reptile hobby, so I really only say I've been in here for 5 or 6 years instead of, I've owned reptiles since I was like 14, but it doesn't really matter. And so 5 or 6 years I've been here. And everyone gets the question, it's the very first thing usually asked in like interviews, podcasts, things like this. How did you get into reptiles? Why do you like reptiles? Why'd you choose reptiles? Things like this. And mine goes, it goes a little deeper than, just like, I liked turtles. I truly believe that without reptiles in my life, I really would not be here today. And we are going to talk a little bit about my past, a couple of obstacles, and hurdles I had to jump through to get to where I am today, and really how reptiles really did save my life. Well, growing up, my life was not very fun, and for the most part it was self-inflicted. I really did a lot of things to myself to really make things a struggle. The age of 14, I was diagnosed with ADHD, depression, anxiety, the usual stuff. That made school really hard, I believe anyone with ADHD can relate to that. That public school really sucks when you have disorders like that. Not only that, I looked like this in high school, so got made fun of a lot, obviously. But yeah, school just kind of sucked. Really just wasn't doing myself any justice at that point. I really didn't care about school. I was sleeping in class, skipping classes, smoking cigarettes, smoking some bud. Just trying to figure out life, what was there for me in this world? And I don't know, I guess usual teenage angst, From the ages of 15 and 16, I ended up getting expelled from school for drug paraphernalia. It was a bullshit case. Just is what it is. So then I was sent to a alternative school, kind of one of those, work at your own pace, pretty much, people's second chances, so, you don't become, dead or in jail, kind of like that, trying to help the, the kids that aren't helping themselves, I guess you would say. Pretty much in between that, I ended up leaving my house at about, I want to say I was 15 or 16, I ended up leaving my house and moving in with my grandparents. House life just wasn't good, probably all because of me, to be honest. I just wasn't a fun person to be around when I was pretty much a teenager. Well, I still don't think I'm fun to be around, but I didn't stick with my grandparents very long. I ended up moving in with a friend. At that point, I was just couch hopping from place to place, just trying to find a place to stay. Had an old beat-up Mustang back in 2002 with 100 and something thousand miles on it. Thing kept breaking down on me. It was good stuff. Then at that point, I started hanging out with some different friends, pretty much thanks to the alternative school. I guess that's one thing, it kind of just leads you, I don't want to blame alternative school, but, So I started hanging out with some new people, smoking a lot more weed at this point. Then I started getting into some, harder stuff, some of the stuff that you don't want to get caught into, but really at this point, I don't really have a home, and again, I could have moved back home, but I didn't want to. I was living couch to couch, sometimes in my car. Started skipping school again at the alternative school. I just didn't like going. They would have to, get someone to bring me back to the school. Yeah, so things started getting a little harder after that. Age of 17, I developed a pretty nasty coke habit. For anyone that has not done coke is very expensive. It started getting harder and harder to find money in order to feed this habit. Ended up getting kicked out of the alternative school at 17, so now I have no house, my car is a piece of shit, and I don't have any more education, so I have to figure something else out. Pretty much was just going from job to job, you know, working at fast food, working at Taco Bueno, McDonald's, Applebee's, Krispy Kreme. Somewhere around 17 years old, my parents were going to move to New Hampshire, and I kind of stated that I wanted a second start in life. I kind of wanted to get clean. I really just, there was nothing for me here. So I packed up all my stuff, one guitar, a bag of clothes, and I drove up here to New Hampshire. This lasted somewhere between, I think I was only here for like 3 weeks or some shit. I was here for like 3 weeks. I got arrested for drug paraphernalia. I had a little pipe and some bud on me. It was like less than a gram. It's a bullshit law. I can't believe it. Fucking bullshit that I got arrested for that. At that point, my parents kicked me out again, and I drove, oh no, I flew, actually. I left my car here because I didn't have enough money to actually drive. My grandparents worked for American Airlines, so they get free plane tickets. So I told my grandma, got shipped back over here, and went back with an ex-girlfriend to the apartment that she was living in because I had nowhere to stay when I went back. Shit gets pretty rough after this. At this point in my life, I felt abandoned by my own parents, by my own fault, I mean, but I felt like I had no one. I didn't care about myself, my life anymore. I could die the next day, I wouldn't give a shit. And so things started getting pretty scary. I think anything in the world just becomes a darker place when you, I don't know, lose any type of hope. I had absolutely nothing and no one at that point, so I guess I just didn't care anymore. Moving forward, I hooked up back with my old dealer. I started doing a lot more coke until I ran out of money and couldn't afford it anymore, so I talked to my buddy and he knew a guy where I could get a cheaper option, and that's when I got started on methamphetamines. I knew a buddy that was on it for a bit, and he seemed okay, so I figured if that guy's okay, then I should be able to get a handle on it. I did not get a handle on it. It was, I don't know. I think people have a bad interpretation of what meth is. It does the same shit as coke, but it's just cheaper, and the high lasts longer, and at that point when you're high, you're numb, and you don't really feel all the pain that you feel when you're sober. From that point forward, as my addiction grew, my life just got worse and worse. I got kicked out of apartment after apartment. Had to get roommates to open apartments for me because I no longer could get anything. My credit was so shit at that point from so many hits on it and getting evicted so many times. Ended up getting a place with my dealer at that point. I started working for him to feed my addiction. We were living together at that point, so with a couple of other people. I think we had like fucking 5 or 6 people living in one place. It's like a 2-bedroom apartment. We had like 5 people in there. Shit just got worse and worse. That point, wasn't eating anymore. I'd eat like once every other day. I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours a week. I stayed up until sun and kept doing shit until the moon or night, I don't know. At that point, the timeline gets a little blurry at this point because I can't remember much of it. Days just kind of blended together, weeks blended together. There was no day and night. I don't know. At some point, we got kicked out of that apartment yet again. None of us could find an apartment, so no one would take us in, you know, for proper reasoning. And I ended up living in a Motel 6 for a month or 2 in the rough side of Texas. There's some scary shit that goes on at night in Motel 6s in a rough neighborhood. It was, I don't know. You'd like look out the window and you'd see people tasing people for no fucking reason. It was fucking strange. Then came a turning point in my life. Now, I don't know what the fuck it was. Lack of sleep, lack of food, lack of water, too many drugs at the same time. I was mixing uppers and downers. I was doing anything and everything, just trying to numb shit. I mean, there was a good, I don't know, 18 months of my life where I just wasn't alive at that point. I mean, I would do whatever you want to call it, autopilot, whatever. I mean, I wasn't living. I didn't do anything. I sat, smoked, and just existed. That was really a good 18 months of my life is what I did. But anyway, again, I don't know. Too many drugs, not enough food, not enough water, not enough sleep. I end up blacking out. I guess I'll just I don't know what the fuck it was. I didn't go to a doctor for obvious reasons. No insurance, and I had a lot of drugs in my system, so you know. But I woke up, everyone left, so, you know, didn't even drag me to a fucking hospital. Assholes. There I was, alone, in a Motel 6, on a rough side of neighborhood, with no one. I think that's when things clicked for me. I don't want to live like this anymore. So I ended up calling my mom, begging her to take me back. If I could just get out of here, maybe I could change something in my life. And I did. Packed my shit, again, one guitar that's right there, and a couple of clothes. Nothing fit me anymore because it was shit when I was like 15. I'm like 19 at this time, so I had pajama pants, gym shorts, a Misfits tank top that some dude gave me, and a gray t-shirt. I think I literally had like 4 or 5 pieces of clothing to my name that actually still fit me. But that's what I did. And I moved. Left everything behind. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell a fucking soul who knew me. I just disappeared from there and moved to New Hampshire without anyone knowing. Now, here I am in New Hampshire. I am 19 years old. I have a nasty drug addiction. I have the education level of, I never passed my sophomore year, so my education stopped that sophomore year. I had no job experience. Again, I worked weeks maybe. Like, I had no concrete anything worth on my resume. I had nothing. So I moved to a whole nother state, no car, no education, no job, with a 500, I think I had a 535 on my credit. I had 6 bills and collections, and then of course no credit history. Now, I never went to any sort of sobriety house, recovery, anything like that. I just did a shit ton of drugs and then stopped doing a shit ton of drugs. And that fucks with you pretty bad, because all the reasons that you were doing it, they're still there, except now you have no relief, no crutch to hold on. You just have to face everything. I don't know why I kept going, to be honest. I mean, I did not know what I was doing with my life at 19. I had no idea where I was going. I had no skills, no education. I mean, who the fuck was gonna take me, you know? Like, I mean, at that point, you know, people are going to college, people are getting their life together, they're figuring shit out, and I didn't even know how to get a house or an apartment. I mean, I couldn't even get to even a car. I didn't have a car. I can't get a loan for a car. I mean, shit was tough, man. It's tough digging a hole that deep for yourself and then trying to get out. And now here's the thing, and I'm sure anyone that's gone through addiction recovery can relate to this. When you do drugs for so long, that becomes your whole identity. That's what people knew me for years, is, you know, I was the junkie. I was the guy that threw his life away and just was doing nothing of it. And when you hold yourself and you become established in this identity for so long, and then all of a sudden you rip away from it, you lose a sense of who you are. That's, I mean, I had nothing but the drugs for any sort of help, any crutch, any safety of just feeling okay. That was all I had, and I took that away from myself. So I just, yeah, you end up not knowing who you are as a person after that, because if you don't have the drugs and you have nothing else, then who are you? Now, this story has been pretty shitty from, I think we're at like 10 minutes. I started this thing at 26 minutes and it says I only have like 8 minutes of recording left, but it gets happy, guys. Don't worry. I mean, I'm still here, so there has to be a good ending, right? I'm not just shit and then I exist. That's not how that works. No, things get up from here. Don't worry. Now, if there's anything about myself I still hold on to, it's the fact I loved animals. I loved animals from a very, very young age. I mean, we're talking 3, 4 years old. I've always had a way about animals. I've always been good with animals. You know, I was just a kid that loved animals. I had frog wallpaper, I had reptile books, just, you know, the whole 9 yards. I loved any kind of animal. So one day, we head over to New England Reptile Distributors, or Zoo Creatures. You went on Groupon and there was a coupon on there to take the Nerd Tour. I've never heard of what Zoo Creatures is or Nerd. Haven't really owned anything except a corn snake from Petco at this point, so we went, you know, seeing some cool reptiles, big snakes, big lizards, sounded like a good time. We went on. So we went, took the tour, you know, as always, it was amazing. I still take the tour. I think we just did one a couple of months ago. It's always a good time. I got to hold one of their, I think I held the sulfur water monitor, a big old dude. It was just awesome. I got to hold tegus, we got to hold retics. It was just some cool shit, man, especially, you know, going from not knowing anything about reptiles and just really, you know, my whole only thing was like a corn snake, and then getting to hold a full adult water monitor. It's the experience I'll never forget. I'll try to find the pictures. My family took pictures. I don't know where they are. Maybe right here, maybe not, but I'll try to look for them. So while we were there, we ended up going down afterwards into the retail section, of course, Zoo Creatures, and I started looking at all the cool little reptiles they have, and I end up picking a bearded dragon. I wanted a bearded dragon for a long time. We went to an expo up in Dallas like years when I was like 10, 11 years old, and I saw a bearded dragon wearing a sombrero, and I was like, yeah, I need a bearded dragon just from that experience alone. So I grabbed a bearded dragon, and just starts the beautiful, beautiful road of owning reptiles for me. And a lot of people ask me, you know, Dakota, why are you such a Kevin fanboy? You know, you're always talking about nerd, blah, blah, blah. Well, nerd is kind of a big thing on why my life isn't shit anymore, and how I fucking picked myself out of all this bullshit and actually made something of myself. So, you know, huge shout out to fucking Nerd, man. Without them, I wouldn't be into reptiles, I wouldn't be into breeding reptiles, DBCB exotics wouldn't even exist, and who knows, maybe Dakota wouldn't exist, I don't fucking know. So, yeah, big shout out for Nerd. They were a huge part, they're a huge point in me turning my life around. I'll say that. Plus, I mean, Kevin's just an amazing dude. I mean, he took species like Asian water monitors, dwarf caimans, and turned them into a docile animal that you can hold. I mean, why wouldn't you look up to that guy? Come on. But yeah, so story picks up from there. Happy ending. Yay, I live in a house, and I'm not on the streets, and I don't do drugs anymore. Yay. It got better. My life got better from there. I started working with animals again. I went from dog daycare, kennels, to dog training, to different pet stores, to dog training at pet stores, to taking care of exotic birds. There was a point where I just had the fucking dream job. I wish I didn't fuck that up for myself, but it is what it is. But raising exotic birds, man, I was raising hyacinth macaws, scarlet macaws, military macaws, just a variety. I was hand raising like 50 birds at one point. It was an incredible experience. And throughout that entire time, I grew more and more reptiles. My collection went from one bearded dragon to then a crested gecko to another crested gecko to a red-tailed boa to some Peter's banded skinks at one point, a pink tongue, some crocodile skinks, and I have like 100 animals now. I'm not gonna name them all. I'm not gonna name the list. That's like all the ones I remember. I had a chameleon at one point. I rescued a chameleon and then gave it to someone else because I realized I don't know shit about taking care of chameleons. This is like year one of owning reptiles. I'm like, I'll take a chameleon, it'll be fun. I have bearded dragon experience, what's the difference? Yeah, there's a big difference. You know, chameleons, they're not easy. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, you know? I got more animals, I got my life back around, met an amazing woman that I'm going to marry, got a house, actually. My credit's like not shit anymore. I actually got, you know, I got my ass from a 430, no, it was a 530. I went from a fucking 530 to a 740 credit score. That was the biggest bitch of all, was digging yourself out of credit. And then I started DVCV Exotics. We're a reptile breeding facility where we work with crested geckos, Mexican black king snakes, crocodile, red-eyed crocodile skinks, tokays, and some other extra side stuff. And we've been going for 2 years now. Now, if anyone were to ask me when I was 16, 17, 19, Dakota, do you think when you're 24, 25 years old that you're gonna own your own reptile breeding company and start your own business? I would say no. No. No, I wouldn't. I don't think that's true. But that's the fucking thing. Things change. 5 years ago, 2 years ago, I would never imagine that I would open my own company and actually be doing my, living my dream of breeding reptiles and actually somewhat succeeding at it. Like, this is the only place in my life where I feel like a sense of belonging and that I'm doing something right. At any other job, with all the fucking anxiety and depression I have and just the self-confidence issues, I never felt that I was doing shit right. But here, when I'm my own boss, when I'm doing shit myself, I feel at peace, man. And that's the thing I love so much about these animals, that I feel like I belong here and that I'm doing something right with them. Now, a lot of people like to poke some fun at me and be like, oh, Dakota, you never really did get better. You just traded one addiction to another. And, well, they're probably right. I mean, I own over 100 animals now, I think. Oh, maybe I'll do a count later. I'll put the number right here. I own quite a few animals, and one could say I am addicted. But, that's the thing. I think it makes the reptiles themselves play a huge part in my recovery and the fact that I know I'll never relapse, and that's just because of the fact that I have things depending on me now. Whether that be cleaning snake cages, collecting reptile eggs, hatching babies out, interacting with monitors. As long as I have these things going for me, taking up my time, and knowing that these things require my care. I can't do, they can't do anything for themselves. The snakes can't pick the shit out of their enclosures themselves. The crested geckos will eat their babies if you leave the eggs in there. You gotta get the eggs out. As long as I have this sense of something that depends on me, I just know in the back of my mind that I can never go back again, because there's just too many things that I hold dear to me at this point to ever think about going back. That's the message I want to give to maybe someone that was in my shoes or is in my shoes right now. Shit does get better, I'm not trying to do that corny ass, life gets better as you go along. It's fucking tough. It was real fucking tough for me to get to where I am now. I mean, I dug myself a hole that I felt like I was never getting out of, and it took almost 6 years to get at a good place. But I don't want people to think that you can't change and that you can't get yourself out of the hole, because if you got the fucking strive to do it and you want to get yourself clean, start a new life, there's hope out there, man. I hope this can help some people out, help some people out there. I went from having absolutely fucking nothing, man. I had a guitar and 5 things of clothes to my name, not a cent anything else, and I fucking got better and I worked my shit up. I have a car now. I have a nice drivable car that runs. Something that I got myself through a loan that I was able to acquire. I'm in a house. Now, so be it, it's not a nice house. It is a pretty crappy house, I'll admit, but it's a house, man, and I live here. I got these animals. I've got so many animals that I enjoy every single day, whether it be fucking dogs, cats, reptiles, birds. I own a zoo in my own house, and I don't know. That's an incredible thing. That's it. I think that's the story, man. How reptiles saved my life. How I went from nothing to something. I think that's the parting message that I want to get out there, you know? Even if you're starting like me, and you're somebody with nothing to their name, but multiple mental illnesses and addiction, you can get your way out of it, and you can have something